So the NFL preseason just started, and we sadly have a couple of injuries, with one of them being major, but there's also a couple of players getting absolutely roasted online for their performances last night. So I've got to break all that down, talk about the Bengals defense, still looking a bit suspect, give an update on the only draftee that is still unsigned, and so much more right after. Alright, first up, football's back. Well, sorta. Preseason football is back, at least, with 3 games going down last night that featured a couple of takeaways from each of them, and sadly, several injuries, with one of them being serious. Let's start with the Colts and Ravens, because Indy saw one of their quarterbacks leave the game with an injury early on in this one. It was actually just the second drive for the Colts, where Anthony Richardson got absolutely blasted by an unblocked rusher, and somewhere in the midst of that, he dislocated his pinky. That play, by the way, was on Anthony Richardson. Multiple former NFL players posted on X breaking down why that is. But basically, he was supposed to know where there would be a free rusher and then needed to hit a hot route on that side, which he did not. Anyway, there was all kinds of nasty photos out there showing a close-up look of his pinky trying to do an exorcist impersonation. Richardson then left the game, didn't return. But the good news is the X-rays came back clean after the game, and he's expected to return to practice soon, with some reports saying he could be back as soon as tomorrow. So that's definitely some good news there. However, we didn't really get to see a lot of him last night because of it. That means we saw a lot more of Daniel Jones, who completed 10 of 21 passes for 144 yards. I still think, based on that performance, the quarterback competition is very much wide open for the Colts, and thankfully for AR's sake, his injury isn't anything too serious. Sadly, though, the same cannot be said for Ravens rookie cornerback Bilal Kone. Honestly, it was a very gruesome injury that I'm not going to show the video of. Severe lower left leg injury right near the knee. They had to place that left leg in an air cast before having him carted off the field. And we got news pretty quickly last night that he tore both his ACL and MCL. There's possibly even more damage than that, and will therefore miss the entire 2025 season. Kone was a 6th-round pick back in April and was fighting for one of the last roster spots in the secondary, so that's a devastating blow for him. But right now, I just hope he's able to get healthy, because that injury looked freaking awful. Back to the game, though. Ravens did win it, by the way, 24-16. Woo! But one of the most hilarious things from this box score is that Baltimore's quarterbacks combined for just 5 total completions, 49 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. They won on the heels of their ground game, totaling 177 yards and 2 scores on the ground, plus LeJohntay Wester's 87-yard punt return touchdown that was easily the most impressive highlight of the game. The 6th-round rookie was listed as the backup punt returner on the first unofficial depth chart, but with plays like that, he could very well find himself winning the job. Now, on top of Anthony Richardson's injury, Shane Steichen revealed last night that the team will also be without rookie corner Justin Walley, as he sadly tore his ACL in practice on Tuesday. Walley was a 3rd-round pick back in April and was on track to be a starter this season, even being named one of the starting corners on the initial depth chart. It's an unfortunate way to end his rookie campaign before it was really even able to get going. Next up, the Eagles and Bengals squared off last night, and in an attempt to get off to a hotter start this season, Cincy actually played a good amount of their starters for the first couple of drives. They literally could not have done any better, by the way, as they scored touchdowns on both series, including a 36-yarder from Jamar Chase, who got loose along the sideline. Burrow finished his night 9 for 10 with 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. After the game, by the way, he labeled his performance average, okay, while Jamar Chase had himself 4 grabs for 77 yards in that score. To be fair, this was largely against the Eagles' backups, but still, not bad at all for Cincy's offense. Their defense, though, we'll get to that, but there are some question marks there. Now, outside of Burrow and Chase on offense, backup tight end Tanner Hudson also showed out, catching 2 touchdowns, one from Burrow and another from Desmond Ridder, the newly signed backup. On the flip side, Philly opted to rest their starters, so that meant 3rd-year quarterback Tanner McKee got the start. I know it's just preseason, but he was the talk of the town last night. He capped off their first drive with a successful tush push because, of course, and by the time the team pulled him, which was not even halfway through the 3rd quarter, McKee had racked up over 250 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns, so 3 total with the tush push, and he only threw 5 incompletions, so he played great. But if I'm a Bengals fan, I'm gonna be a little concerned about that defense Right now, it is early, but still, since he started most of their projected starting defense, minus Trey Hendrickson, but Philly played 0 of their offensive starters, yet they still put together a touchdown drive and followed that up with a field goal on their first 2 possessions, and in the end, Philly got the meaningless W, 34-27. And then Pete Carroll and Geno Smith headed back to the familiar city of Seattle for a little exhibition game between the Raiders and Seahawks. Believe it or not, this one actually ended in a tie as Daniel Carlson's game-winning field goal attempt was blocked at the end of regulation. But again, it's just preseason, so the score matters not. Drew Lock got the start for Seattle, though, and while he did throw a pick on their opening drive, by the end of the night, he had thrown for nearly 150 yards and a tutty. Torrey Horton, their 5th-round rookie receiver, led them in targets, catches, and yards while hauling in their lone receiving touchdown. It was also good to see Jalen Milroe in there for the entire second half. Unfortunately, 4 out of his 5 drives ended in a punt or a turnover on downs, but he flashed his athleticism on a 27-yard scramble in the 4th quarter. For the Raiders, Geno Smith played the first series, which didn't really amount to anything. They picked up 1 first down and ended up punting, so nothing special there. Ashton Jeanty played the first 2 drives for Vegas, and he kind of got roasted online because he finished with 3 carries for -1 yard. In fact, even the Seahawks social media team got in on the roast session because their second-year running back George Halani is also from Boise State, same school as Ashton, and he led all rushers in this game with 61 yards and a touchdown. So they posted this, quote, "Some people are saying George Holani is the best running back out of Boise State. What's even funnier about this is that this dude was a UDFA last year and isn't even a lock to make the team as he's battling with their 7th-round pick from this year in Damian Martinez for that number 3 spot. Anyway, nobody is actually panicking about Jeanty, at least they shouldn't be. It's an incredibly small sample size in 1 preseason game, so I wouldn't get too worked up about it, but the trolling from the Seahawks themselves was pretty funny. But hey, while we're talking running backs, we've actually got a legal update on Browns rookie running back Quinshon Judkins. If for some reason you're unaware, Judkins was arrested about a month ago now on a domestic violence battery charge. Because of that, he has yet to sign his rookie contract and hasn't been at training camp as the Browns are waiting for the legal process to play out. Well, yesterday, Quinshon's defense attorney waived his right to a speedy trial, which means that this case could get pushed back into early 2026. And because of that, Drew Davenport, a practicing defense attorney of over 20 years, thinks there's a chance that this charge could even get upped from a misdemeanor to a felony, which would complicate things even more. But while this case hangs in the balance, there isn't really a clear resolution at this point. The Browns could sign Judkins to his rookie deal ASAP. There is a chance that he could play out his entire rookie season while he awaits the legal decision, similar to Rashee Rice, who was arrested last offseason, but the legal process hadn't taken place until this offseason, so he was free to play last year. However, there's also a chance that after Judkins signs his contract, he would be placed on the commissioner's exempt list with no timeline of being reinstated. That is something more common with DV or SA situations like Judkins, so the Rashee Rice comparison wasn't really a good one. Either way, I'm sure the Browns would prefer to have clarity on how this is going to play out in court before committing a ton of guaranteed money to him, which is understandable, but that's why it may be a while before we see Judkins actually hit the field. And sadly, this isn't the only ongoing case like this involving an NFL player. Texan safety Jimmie Ward was arrested back in June and charged with felony assault and family violence after an incident involving his son's mother. Ward was released on $30,000 bail, but hasn't been participating in any of training camp as he's actually on the PUP list while working back from foot surgery. However, it was reported that yesterday Ward was arrested after testing positive for alcohol, which was a violation of his bail. Because of that, he had to stay overnight at the Montgomery County Jail, but was released today. His attorney claimed that Jimmie was unaware that he couldn't drink. He just thought he couldn't get drunk, but thought he could have 1 drink. I'll let you decide if that's believable or not, but while it doesn't appear that there will be any further repercussions from this arrest, it probably isn't a great look ahead of his court date later this month in which he'll appear in front of a grand jury. We'll learn more about his legal status, which will then give us an idea of his playing status down the road. It's all hands on deck right now in that safety room for the Texans because Ward's absence is going to be felt even more after CJ Gardner Johnson went down with what appeared to be a serious knee injury yesterday. Initial reports were saying the fear was that he tore his ACL, but we actually did get a positive update last night from Ian Rappaport. Gardner Johnson did in fact not tear his ACL. It is fully intact, which is great news. He's still undergoing more tests, though, and those tests could reveal other injuries like a meniscus tear or a sprain of various degrees, but it's at least sounding a bit more positive than initially believed. And I actually went to his Twitter account to see if we got any updates directly from him, but all this man wants is a collab from Wiz Khalifa on his upcoming EP, so that was definitely no help at all. So while CJ Gardner Johnson was no help for clarity, Adam Schefter just tweeted out tonight at 5 p.m. that further testing revealed Texan safety CJ Gardner Johnson's knee isn't as serious as it could have been, and it's not out of the question that he could be back as soon as the regular season opener against the Rams. I'm chuckling because that went from worst case scenario almost seemingly to he could play in a few weeks. So I am glad that it seems to be rather minor, all things considered. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on all that in the comments down below, and with that, I'll see y'all next time.